Hey folks, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by Urban Lounge, located at 241 South, 500 East in downtown Salt Lake City. Go to the urbanloungeslc.com to find out about all of the bands playing there very soon.
Showcasing local talent, professionals, and everyday people making Salt Lake City what it is today. It's time for another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast.
I want to welcome everybody out today to episode 100 of the I Am Salt Lake podcast. My name is Chris Hollifield. Welcome to my show. Welcome to the podcast where I introduce you to people in Salt Lake City, Utah that are making the city just a little bit better, making it a place that I can be proud to call home. So thank you for joining me, especially on this memorable location of episode 100. You know, a lot of podcasts give up after a dozen or so episodes, and here I am at episode 100. I've taken this podcast to levels that I never thought I would be able to take it to when I first started it. I've talked to people that I never thought I'd have the opportunity to sit down with. So thank you very much to everybody for your support along the way, especially those of you that have been listening since the very beginning, and for all of your support. Seriously, thank you so much for your emails, voicemails. All of that is very much appreciated. This episode, I sat down with a longtime friend of mine. He's a tattoo artist and owner of 27. His name's Vic Back. Sat down, had a conversation with him right at his shop. We sat down and found out what got him into tattooing, art, about opening up the shop 27, living in Salt Lake City. Really great conversation. Like I mentioned, we recorded it right at the shop at 535 South, 700 East in Salt Lake City, right across the street from Trolley Square. So if you're in the area, stop by and check out all the tattoo artists there. They got a great group of people, and it's a great shop. So anyways, this is the conversation that I had with Vic Back. Hopefully you guys enjoy it, and thank you so much for listening to another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast. If you're ready to go, we'll go.
Yeah, let's go.
We're recording on location at 27, 535 South, 700 East, downtown Salt Lake City. I got Vic Back, episode 100. He joined me for the big episode 100. What got you into tattooing, Vic? I mean, what got you interested in even tattooing?
I did a lot of art growing up as a kid, and when I turned 11, 12, junior high, I started playing drums and got pretty into music and veered away from art just a little bit. Drew here and there just for fun, but kind of fell away from it. And when I was 17, somebody broke into our band's storage space and stole my drums. And I didn't have much money at the time and working my butt off already. And then my sister had a friend visiting from out of town, kind of looked like Todd from Beavis and Butthead. And I got a mullet blonde dude, and he was a tattoo artist, quote unquote. And so he offered to fix this tattoo that I had on my arm. In hindsight, he didn't really know what he was doing at all, but he offered to fix this tattoo on my arm. And as he was fixing it, he told me that he needed some money to get back home. So he offered to sell me his equipment. And my sister had told him that I drew a lot growing up. And I was currently out of hobbies and interests with my drums being stolen and pretty bummed about it. So I told him no. And the next day, a friend of mine wanted to go get tattooed in Provo. And I'd kind of mentioned this guy to him. So he told me that if we went in half on the equipment I told him that if he went in halves with me, then I would just tattoo him for free forever. And so he did. And then I tattooed him and wrecked him, just destroyed him completely.
Tore up his body.
As well as probably everybody else I tattooed for the next year and a half or so. And then I didn't really ever plan on...
So you weren't apprenticing anywhere at this time?
No, and I don't encourage my way of starting whatsoever to anybody. But it was so that was 98, and I just kind of fell into it, and I had no intention of sticking to it or anything. I wanted to get my drums back and get back on that whole thing and be a famous rock and roll drummer. And then I just fell in love with tattooing. It was fun. I had a great time doing it, and then picked up an apprenticeship.
Where did you pick up an apprenticeship at?
At a place called Susie M's in town, but I wasn't there too long. And I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, and it was pretty cool getting into all the different, just, I don't know, being a young kid and not knowing anything and being self-taught, just the, needles do this and that and what different pigments and that kind of thing. So I started my apprenticeship, and then after maybe a year, I quit there and got a job at a shop called Good Times, and I was there for 10 years. And then it worked out. And I mean, blessing in disguise, I guess it was great. I'm glad I did it. So
you were at Good Times for 10 years.
10 years.
After you were, how long did you even apprentice for? I mean, what's
year and a half?
Is that a pretty typical apprenticeship?
I mean, there's two types of apprenticeships. There's apprenticeships that you're told you're finished, and there's apprenticeships that you just
start tattooing.
At some point, you're just done, and nobody ever told you were, and I guess you just are. And that's kind of how mine went. So I started over at Good Times when they were on 9th South, and I worked there for 10 years. Yeah.
And then from Good Times, you opened up 27.
No, from Good Times, I was ready to work with some new people. My friend Oak Adams had just opened Painted Temple. Well, he had moved it from Provo up to Salt Lake, and I really wanted to work with him. Him and Dan Walker are incredible artists, and so I really, really wanted to work with them. And I gave a notice over there, then went to Painted Temple. Worked there for about a year, and it was we had a lot of people, a lot of interest in wanting to work with us, and there wasn't enough room. It was a pretty small studio, so we, my wife and I, Erin Campbell, we just started talking about opening a studio, and we had a lot of interest. So we opened the shop. We did construction for 3 or 4 months on it, and it was a lot of work, and we got it open. And the original idea was to start somewhat of a tattoo collective where we wanted a building big enough and enough chair space and all that so that we could actually have other artists from town or anywhere just come work with us. So the whole idea was a big art collective and just a lot of artists coming to work with us and together, and nobody pays anything necessarily other than the people that worked here. It was just kind of, if your boss is okay with it and you want to come over and work for a couple days, then come over and work, and we'll learn from you. You learn from us, kind of a thing. So we did that with Painted Temple for a little while, and it blew up pretty quick, and we inevitably just ran out of chair space. So now it's not really, unfortunately not as much of an option as it was, but yeah, we do a thing every year called Skull Day. It's the Saturday before Halloween.
Here at 27.
Yeah. And the guys from Painted Temple come over, and we cram the shop full of artists, and we do baseball size black and gray skulls for $100 all day long. And last year, I think we did 36 tattoos total, 36 skulls from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m.
And what's the date of that event?
We usually do it the Saturday before Halloween. So whatever, I haven't even quite
figured that out. And we'll list the links to follow you on Facebook and everything on the show notes. But to back up a little bit, and I want to get into your shop and everything. Beautiful space, by the way. First time in here today. When you got into tattooing, I mean, what was your response from your family and friends? I mean, were they supportive though?
A lot of friends, based on a lot of my friends that I had been spending time with around that point were kind of music related friends. I'd met these kids through bands and that kind of thing. A lot of them didn't know that I had done art all growing up and taken art through high school and that kind of thing. So a lot of them, they were like, "Oh, that's cool, man." But I don't know how serious they were. It's a pretty serious thing to do, I think, especially looking back now. And my family was cool about it. Well, they knew, obviously. And my mom was super supportive and cool. My dad, not so much initially, and we kind of we hit some pretty heavy points because of all that. But now he's come around.
He sees
he's great.
it as it's a respectable job.
And I understand looking back from his perspective, it was just if your kid tells you that they're gonna pursue this thing and it's this crazy thing, this foreign thing, you have no idea you don't know anything about it, and it seems pretty crazy and out there to you, and it also carries kind of this. It kind of carries this, I don't know, this just bad kind of persona with it, or this that
biker, that typical
exactly.
biker,
and my dad, he's
rebel.
LDS, and went on a mission and all that, and then so I understand it was hard for me to accept that he wasn't cool with it at first, but when it became successful for me, and I bought my first really nice car, and I got my own place, and just started making good money and spoiling myself and like a young dumb kid would that has money coming in finally, then he started kind of realizing like, oh, this is cool, and had magazine interviews, and it just started kind of blowing up for me and working out really well. And when he started seeing that, he realized that, wow, this is really something that's working for him. Then he started.
You didn't get heavily involved in drugs and all that other typical stuff that people associate people with tattoos.
Right, and so he really came around and then he was cool about it, and then. I think, in a business standpoint, he's like, oh, well, that's cool. It's financially, stable, blah, blah, blah. And then I think as time went on, then he realized the importance in it to me and how much I really did like it. And I think for him, his thing always kind of seemed to be, if you didn't go to 4+ years of schooling, or you didn't, I mean, basically, if you don't like your job, you're probably not going to do well, is kind of always been his outlook on things, in a sense, I guess. And so, which is completely understandable. Cause I mean, if my daughter grows up and she's like, Dad, I'm going to juggle professionally and I'm dropping everything else in my life and I'm not going to do anything. I'm like, what do you mean? And of course, right now I'd like to say that I would be very supportive, and I'd like to think that I will be, but you never know what your kids are going to throw on you. And just to be like, hey Dad, I'm a tattoo artist now and I have long hair and I'm awesome and I'm going to make money with this. And, looking back, I could not have expected him to really believe me. And so I had to show him. And now, he came and helped us remodel the shop and build it and everything. And he's great. So
have you had the opportunity to actually tattoo any of your parents in?
I did. I tattooed my mom when I was 18 and then touched it up when I was probably 21. I've tattooed my brother, my sisters. I've tattooed everybody in my family minus my dad. He's joked about it. The last thing he said, he would have no idea what he would even consider getting or anything like that. But yeah. So
have you, speaking of religion, have you tattooed like any like Mormon temples or anything?
I've done a lot, actually.
You've actually done some.
Yeah. Because a lot of kids here, they'll get tattoos of, Salt Lake City skylines and to represent, their love for their city of Salt Lake here. And so I've done quite a few, actually. But not just specifically of the temple. No, of the temple, yeah. Really? Yeah, I did one on a guy's forearm where it goes from his wrist up to his elbow, and just one on a guy's shin. But yeah, just the temple. I've probably tattooed the actual temple or Angel Moroni's probably 15 to 20 times, I bet. Wow. Yeah. What's your favorite style of tattoo? Do you have a favorite style? Yeah, I do, and try to exclusively this last few years do obviously only what I'm trying to do in my style. I do a lot of hyperrealism, portraiture, and Eastern and Japanese art. I also like Victorian art quite a bit. So I try not to veer too far away from those styles. One, because obviously that's what I like to do. And two, I feel like anytime you kind of, as an artist, you get into trying to take on other things that you're not really into, you're kind of cheating the person in a sense that if you're not really fully invested into it and they're paying you money, it's just kind of, to me, doesn't ring true as very fair. And we've got, in this studio, we've got 10 artists and somebody for everything, basically. We don't do any traditional work here, but we refer people out to other studios, Cathedral, Yellow Rose, whatever, for work like that. So everybody here is pretty specific on, what they like. I will do this because this is what I do. Do you even take on new clients? I mean, you're a pretty busy guy. I do. I work in a weird rotation kind of a thing where everybody I tattoo is in every 2 weeks at the same time. And the only time I get openings is when one of those people finishes up their piece. So I've got people their names kind of overlapped essentially onto these people waiting in line. So as soon as this person's finished, then this person assumes that appointment spot, and then they go on until they're almost done, and et cetera, et cetera. So basically everybody's in every 2 weeks until they're finished, and that's kind of the way I do it now. So it puts it out pretty far. What are your thoughts on like the reality TV shows of tattoo reality? Do you think it's negative or positive? Do you think it's both. The tattoo? I think it's very misleading. I think that there's a lot of cons to it, but at the same time, I do feel like it's opened the public's eye up a lot to being more educated about tattoos and understanding good work a little bit better than they used to, and understanding that, which could be good or bad for some tattooers or tattooed people, I guess, or enthusiasts, but just understanding that we are approachable, and I mean, you get stopped by people you never would have in the early 2000s, late 90s or anything, and they wouldn't even talk to you. But now they're more accepting, and I think it's a lot more socially acceptable, and it's become a lot easier for to be part of society. Yeah, and people come in that probably normally wouldn't have, but I mean, so I think it's helped us a lot, and I do think that it's also kind of giving people an idea, a false idea of how it really is in tattoo shops. That's not to say that some shops aren't like that, but ours definitely isn't. And you don't come in here and deal with immense amounts of drama and shit talking and uncomfortable vibes and tough guys at all. Yeah. And some of those shows, are depicted like that. At least though, I haven't seen any of those shows since Miami Ink was probably the last
that's what
one,
I was. Yeah, Miami Ink was what I used to watch it from time to time.
I haven't seen them since that. I worked at Hart and Huntington for a second, and
how was that?
It was just it was. I don't know. It was
Vegas,
cool, I guess, but it was kind of you try to have a conversation with somebody, and next thing you know, there's a boom mic kind of creeping over your shoulder, and then you look in the corner, and there's somebody zoomed in on you with a camera, and it really just kind of got.
So can people find you on any episodes of that?
No, only one.
There's only one episode.
It's I didn't actually.
I saw you on Hart and Huntington. People,
no, because I didn't actually want to even be in it. It was just for the experience, and it was a friend of mine that is from Provo was working down there and got me the job, and it didn't last very long at all. I got over it pretty quick.
What if you got offered a reality show here for 27?
I wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't.
They'd be bored out of their minds anyways. The shop's just mellow, and it's just mellow, quiet music all day, and we try to run things here more like a spa, and
Yeah, let's talk. Let's talk about your shop. Describe it. It's definitely got a different feel than I've ever seen in a tattoo shop.
We went into it. It was.
Even these secluded rooms that you have.
Yeah, it was. We kind of went into it where people pay a lot of money for tattoos. It's a big investment for just about anyone. Just in conversations about, with my wife and I and friends and whoever, about how when people are investing that much and they have to come into somewhere and feel uncomfortable, bad language, nasty stories, or I was fucked up last night kind of stuff or whatever. And to me, it's just, it's not necessary. And it's kind of, I don't know, if you're paying that much money for something, if I went to an attorney's office and I was paying him thousands of dollars for helping me with whatever that may be, and it was just loud music and it was uncomfortable and tough guys and that kind of thing, I wouldn't want to be there or whatever. So the whole idea here was just to create an environment that we can give back in a spa-like feel. And we serve espresso and tea and coffee to our clients and water, and we just approach it very professionally. And there are rules with the artists here, but limited to very few. And basically the rules are based on music and vibe and energy and attitude, and that's it. Other than that, everybody kind of does what they want, and that keeps everybody here happy. So it keeps the positive energy up, and everybody's just, we're going on almost 2 years now, and we've had zero problems, nothing. It's just been great. Everybody gets along, and we have 10 people here, and everybody's just, every day comes to work.
10 people, tattoo artists here. Who's currently here? Let's run down the roster.
R2, we have John Lang, we have Jared Hayes, we have Daryl Palmer, Bobby Johnson, we have Aaron Campbell, Miss Amanda, Pat Delvar, and Rick McGrath.
So those are some great tattoo artists. You lucked out there.
And going into it, it was crazy. We opened the shop with only, I think, 3 or 4 of us, and it all fell into place incredibly. R2 came and talked to me about a job, and then John popped in, and within about a year's time, then Jared, and I couldn't have planned it better. It's been incredible. It's been
Do you
really
still
cool,
get approached by people that want to tattoo here full time?
Yeah, all the time.
And you have to turn them down.
Yeah, we don't have the space. We're working on wanting to do a second studio right now for that reason.
Would you do it here in Salt Lake, or?
Yeah, we'd want to do it in Salt Lake. So that's kind of in the works right now. The hardest part is, finding a location, finding a building that's going to work for us and this and that. So that's kind of where we're at with it right now. But we basically just wanted to create a place that
a relaxed atmosphere.
Where people felt comfortable and people felt like, everybody feels welcome, whether it's my grandma or a 10-year-old kid that's coming in with his dad or whatever.
Do you find the clientele to be appreciative of that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Everybody. We've had one complaint. A guy called us artsy fartsy and said that he didn't want to come in because it was way too quiet and mellow, and that's fine because that's what I'm trying to do.
A complaint to you, or like on a review?
It was to another friend of mine that owns a shop in town. So the guy went there talking. I don't know if I'd say it's talking crap, because that's exactly what I want, and so him being upset about that is fine, because I don't really want somebody that's upset in here anyways.
Well, yeah, that's what it's like, a review about something that you're kind of going for anyways. Yeah. It's like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
Now, what's the meaning behind the name 27? Is that
27's a number that a good friend of mine, Jeff, kind of turned me on to it early 2000s. It started out as kind of a joke with some friends, and my friend Brandon and a lot of the used guys down in Provo had kind of told me about it. Jeff one day had a washer and dryer delivered to his house, and I was there, and they just came, and one of them just had a sticker of a 27 on it, and he's like, "Oh, this number is my number," and da-da. And so then I started seeing it, and it was popping up at strange points, and I'd laugh about it, and then at some point I got into this mindset that it was a cursed thing and it was bad, and then that kind of turned around again. And it's been a good 10 years now that it's just kind of become symbolic.
Isn't that the year that Jim Morrison died?
Yeah, the age of all those guys. Yeah,
27.
And also,
I'm
a huge Beatles fan, and there's a movie that came out about John Lennon called Chapter 27 of him being killed by Mark David Chapman. And then,
what's your obsession with the Beatles? Come on, spill that. Why do you have such an obsession?
I grew up with, that's my mom and dad. That's all they listened to all the time. So then it was a very nostalgic thing for me. And then as I've grown in life, just the correlations of, a lot of the different songs and how they signify parts of my life. And this, obviously it started out as a root by my parents loving it and it coming up from there. But then, my daughter's name's Lennon, and her due date was May 27th.
Wow.
And John Lennon was obsessed with the number 9 and all of its multiples. That's something I also didn't know until I started researching the Chapter 27 thing. And then, it just goes into so many other things too, that it falls into the sacred geometry, the mathematics of the world. And I don't know. So there's many different explanations as to why it could be seen a lot, whether they're spiritual or mathematical or whatever. It's a lot of movies that you watch. One of Transformers, for example, at the very beginning, there's a plane flying overhead with a big 27 on it, and you see it pop up a lot in movies. And so it's just been one of those things for me. And it kind of turned in with when I met my wife and a lot of events leading up to our relationship. It almost kind of turned into a path. And it's one of those things that, this might sound crazy, but I get to points where if I don't consistently see it, I almost start feeling like I'm doing something wrong and I need to switch it up. And we hadn't been on vacation in quite a long time, 4 or 5 years, and we recently went to France to see my family, and they were everywhere. It was just, I've got probably 40 or 50 pictures in my phone of just, and I try to photograph them every time I see them.
What was everywhere?
The number 27s.
Really?
Just all over the place. But
now you were born in France, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Wow. So when did you move to the States in?
In 82, I believe.
So
I was a year or two old.
Oh, okay.
I
So you didn't really get to experience all that.
But we went back every summer throughout my childhood. And then sometimes, here and there as a teen. And then through my 20s, I probably went 6 or 7 more times. And I've probably been 15 to 20 times in my lifetime. So.
And you speak fluent French, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good to know in case I ever need a French translator, right? But so you've also gotten to tour with some bands, right? You've gone on Warped Tour.
Yeah, so with the used guys,
because you're pretty good buddies
I was tattooing
with
those guys. Yeah, I went to high school with Jeff and have known Brandon since I was 9 years old. I tattooed Jeff, but he was never home, so we joked around about me going on tour and being a resident artist on tour, and then we actually just tried it, and it was excellent. And my first tour was with the Used, Head Automatica, The Bled, and the Bronx. And it was fun. I had a blast and came home for a week and decided to go back out again. Then I went on a Taste of Chaos tour with My Chemical Romance and Killswitch Engage. Those guys have become really good friends of mine now. And I've tattooed them, been on tour with them 5, 6, 7 times. I've been out with Slayer and Marilyn Manson and Cannibal Corpse and tons of bands. I also actually got the chance to tattoo Danny Harrison, George Harrison's son, and that was pretty cool for me.
Big moment. Now, when you would go on tour with these bands, were you just tattooing the bands, or were you
just
tattooing
backstage
other people too?
There was one tour that I did with an artist named Oliver Peck, and
Oliver,
and we were out with Korn and Disturbed and a bunch of bands that not really my thing, but the tour was pretty fun. We set it up to where it was essentially a small mini tattoo convention every day. So every day we'd get up at 9, we'd have to lug all these tables in, and we had a tattoo supply company sponsor us, and we would invite local tattooers. So we'd have about, I'd say, between 15 to 30 tattoo artists per day come out from whatever city we were in. And the health departments had to come out and do a health inspection at noon, and we'd start tattooing at 1 p.m. to the general public. It'd almost be like if we were in the East Center and we were all set up in the concourse with just a big convention. So people could go down and watch the bands, and they could come out and talk about tattoos, and they would preset appointments. So we were booked out for the tour before it even started, Oliver and I. So we just, we've been in touch with our clients, and we draw for them and show up and tattoo, and it was fun. We had a great time. So
now are you doing that still? Like now that you're the family man, you got a kid, and you're married. And
I haven't, but
are you gonna still do that?
The
kind
biggest
of stuff?
thing I was actually supposed to, and might still, I'm supposed to leave with Kill Switch late October. I haven't contacted them, but they were in here about 2 months ago getting tattooed and had mentioned it. So, but no, the family man thing hasn't slowed that down at all. What has slowed it down in the last 2 years was opening this business and getting this off the ground and getting this going steadily enough that I can actually leave, and I can leave for 2 to 3 weeks at a time without it being a problem. So, but yeah.
What's the funnest tattoo you've ever given? Or is that kind of a tough, like one that you've just really enjoyed? You're just like, okay, this is really badass. It's like the Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters or something like that.
Yeah, with funny ones, I don't even know. I've done so many. Every time I get asked this question, I cannot remember. Yeah. But then we'll just be talking, and then I'll think about it.
Or what's one you would like to give? Is there like something you're just like,
actually, you know what? I did on tour, actually, on a guy that works for the band Atreyu. I did a huge Bill Murray from his knee up to his hip. It was huge. And it was a Ghostbusters Bill Murray, and he's ghost busting, so he's holding the gun up. You can't see his hands, but the gun's coming up, kind of sexually innuendo. And the electricity's coming out, and he's screaming, and it says, "Bustin' makes me feel good," coming out of it. So that was pretty fun. And on that same tour, I actually did a Bill Murray zombie portrait as well. Usually I have a lot of fun with the portraits, because you can still execute them to look nice, but they can carry somewhat, they can carry some novelty to them without being so cheesy and joke tattoo that they're just dumb.
Yeah.
So I think that if I have to do a joke tattoo, those are generally the ones I prefer. I actually, one of the guys that works here, I did Val Kilmer and Keanu Reeves on his leg.
Is there a tattoo you wouldn't give? I mean, I guess race.
Yeah, I won't do anything gang related, racial, anything like that. And mostly
most tattoo artists probably wouldn't in Salt Lake, though. Really, I mean,
probably not. I think any artist that takes themselves serious, because at that point it's just kind of you're attracting more of them to come in to get that kind of stuff. And then to me, it's where do you draw the line on when it's a tattoo or when it's art? And I'm here to do art, to express art on skin. I'm not here just to have fun and dick around and do stupid things that, if somebody comes to me and wants something cheesy and dumb, and for a lot of artists I know, it almost comes off as a little bit, it's a slap in the face a little bit. It's offensive. We've been doing this so long, and you're so busy, then somebody wants you just to do something dumb and funny on them, and it's just kind of like,
because you come in here, there's not flash on the wall, lot of tattoo. I mean, we
didn't put the word tattoo outside. We really wanted to push a private studio in the beginning so that we could focus on what we're doing in our clients and not have to deal with heavy traffic and all that. And that's didn't last too long, and that's a great problem to have. So it's been good. But that's part of the reason we also want to open the new shop, is to recreate the private studio atmosphere that we had in the beginning, and create a place for newer artists or newer to town that are experienced artists, but can come work with us and actually have a chance to build a clientele and to have a lot of work to do. So
besides tattooing, what do you like to do? Like, what are some of your other hobbies and interests?
I do woodwork. I built all the desks in the shop, and I built all the doors and windows and everything. And
so kind of like a Ron Swanson from Parks and Recreation, kind of that woodworking man,
The woodworking thing. My dad did it all growing up as a kid, and I never really got into it until the last probably 3 or 4 years. And I love it. It's fun. It's not something I could ever see myself doing for work or anything to make money. But I really do. And it's nice to, it kind of started because when we were building the studio, or actually just before, I was looking for some furniture for my tattoo room, because you a lot of times in tattoo shops, you see just the Craftsman rollaways that people use. And I got pretty burnt out on that and wanted to see something really nice and classy looking, but built for tattooing. So I was looking all over the place, antique stores, and just trying to find the right hutch or the right desk to work off of, and couldn't. So I just drew one up on kind of what I was looking for. Then I just decided to build it, and then I did. And then I fell huge into woodworking, and I love it. And I share a huge a big wood shop up in Bountiful with a friend of mine named John Larson, and it's been awesome. So.
Is that about you? You're also paint. You're an artist, right?
Yeah,
as well.
oil paint as well. And
is that just more for a hobby, or do you sell any of your paintings?
I sell my paintings for sure, and I love doing that. That's fun. It's very relaxing. It's nice. We've got the art instructor, or the art professor from the UVU. His name's Perry Stewart, and he comes up here every other Monday night and does private oil painting classes for our shop. So that's been cool.
And actually, while we're on that subject, on the 20th of this month, the artists here from 27 are going to be part of the FICE art show.
Yeah, we've got
an art show there,
we have
right?
a group show for for our shop at FICE. We'll have each artist from here will have at least 2+ paintings to display. So it should be a great show. I'm excited about it.
Is that like the first time you guys have done an art show all together? Or
kind of. We do. My wife and I host an annual Nutcracker show.
Yeah, because you make nutcrackers like the Beatles Nutcrackers.
Yeah. And so the first year we had 30, and then last year we had 63. So I'm really hoping this year that every year that we do it, more artists will come out and check out the show and really want to get involved. And it's a pretty fun show. It's cool. We had a Game of Thrones Nutcracker last year. Someone did with crazy swords behind it. We had Slash, and people did some samurai, and I did a Yellow Submarine set and a Sgt. Pepper set. I also did Monty Python and the Holy Grail set, the Black Knight and King Arthur and Bedivere and everybody. And my wife did a John and Yoko. She did a Dexter one. It's all over the board. People just do goblins or weird things just that aren't anything in particular. But we had 63 last year. It was awesome.
Is there a website that people could see pictures of this at all? Do you know?
They do it at
it's Blonde Grizzly.
It's hosted
right?
at Blonde Grizzly every year. Yeah. So I think they've probably got something archived or blogged on there that you can check them out.
There. Yeah, because I've seen your Beatles ones, and those always blow me away.
Well, actually, this year I'm wanting to put a Facebook page together for that show in particular, so that we can keep track of all the pictures of the Nutcracker, so people can go back and kind of see them. But generally we re-show unless they sell and the person takes them. We redisplay all of them again, because that's kind of what makes it fun, is to have the older ones there with the newer ones and everything. So
overall, what would you say you enjoy most about being a tattoo artist?
Just that I get to do the art and just do that for a living. That I have a relatively stress-free job.
You don't get nervous. You don't get nervous when you're down there with tattooing.
No, not
people?
anymore. No, and a stressful day for me really doesn't leave me much room to complain, because it's most things for anyone.
And it probably gives you time with your family and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I get to work with my wife, and so that cuts out the whole we don't ever get to see each other thing, and it's great. I love it. It's I don't know. It's really. Somewhat forgiving job. I love it. It's not.
Seems like
I don't ever
chill.
wake up and I'm pissed off and I hate that I have to go to my job. And never. By about 7:00, I'm pretty over it from working 8 to 10 hours a day, and I work 6 days a week. But just go home and hang out with my kid, and then do it all over again. And it's never really gets. It only gets old when there's a lot of other things that I need to get done, and I don't have the time because of the way my schedule works. But other than that, I love it. It's great.
Now, you've lived here in Salt Lake for many years. I ask people that come on the show. So I'm going to ask you as well. What do you like about living in Salt Lake? What do you like about Salt Lake in general?
Not a lot.
Not a lot.
No.
Hey,
I love my family, friends.
At least you're honest, though.
The studio. I love the counterculture here. It's great. It's very supportive, and I really do like all the small. I like all the the small scenes we have here. Everybody's pretty down for what they believe in and what they're passionate about here. I really do like that. I don't know if versus other cities, if that's any different, because I've never really lived anywhere else. But
you've traveled though,
yeah, I've traveled quite a bit, and
you've seen how other cities.
We've got a pretty cool. I will say that in all my travels, I've been to every state in the U.S. multiple times. I've been out of the country a bunch, and I will say that within the U.S., Salt Lake is in my probably top 5 or 6 places that I would want to live based on my travels. And
being a father now, do you see a difference? Like, okay, this would be a good place to raise my
Absolutely.
kid.
Yeah.
Versus
yes
other,
and no. Yes.
Yeah. Certain things. Yeah. What about any favorite local cafes, restaurants, eatery spots? Do you hit up many local places at all?
All the time. Yeah.
What do you like? Let's hear some recommendations from Vic.
Trio, Pago, Finca, Sapa. I love Sapa. Anything with a weird name, like 2 syllables, weird name. That's all.
That's what attracts you.
And I'll go there.
Yeah. So there's a secret if you want a business, you want to get Vic. I
didn't think about that, but yeah, it's a Vinto. McDonald's I would go, but there's more than 2 syllables, so I'm not really.
Well, it's not a local place, Vic. Come on. Now, okay, let's bet. What would you change about Salt Lake then? Back to overall what you liked about it. you were mentioning, well, okay, I mean, what would you like to see different?
Well,
here?
the snow. I hate snow. I don't snowboard or anything.
Boom,
but
I want to give you a high
lot
five.
of people, move to this city for that, which is absolutely insane to me. But that's cool because I live East Bountiful too, so we get crazy amounts of snow up there, and I don't really like that. But I mean, overall, it's worth it. And I think every winter here, people get so gloomy and depressed and mean until about a week before Christmas, and then everyone's just jolly and nice, and that's great. I love that. And it's always by the end of winter, my wife and I was like, let's just move. This sucks. And then spring hits, and then you realize why you really like living here, and it's really nice. So.
Yeah. Where would you move to? Do you have like any spots that you just like would love to live, or that you think you would
in Salt Lake or out
of Salt Lake?
Paris.
Paris.
Yeah.
Would you really
sure.
move there?
No, but I would love to. But it's just not. It's not really conducive to what we do. It's not the tattoo scene in Salt Lake, and it is so strong. It's crazy. People just.
Why do you think it is? Why do you think the tattoo scene is so incredible?
I think it's a strong counterculture, and I think that it's a lot of. And I'm kind of curious to see if it dies down over the next 20 or 30 years. But I feel like a lot of the kids raised the way that we were.
Mormon.
And kind of told what to do and raised with a pretty strong militant belief in whatever it is that they do believe in. I think that when they turn 18 or whatever age it is that they can fall away, they fall away pretty hard. And they're raised with such a strong fanaticism that they want to cling to other things just as hard. And that's kind of how I feel about it. Like my friends that are Buddhist, when they fall in, it's very, this or straight edge or vegan or tattooed or whatever it is.
Do it big.
For sure. And that's great. I think it's really cool. But I think that's also why we as tattooers are able to stay pretty busy in this town, is that you get 18-year-old kids trying to talk you into tattooing their hands and necks, which we don't do, and it's pretty crazy. But
you won't tattoo hands or necks here?
I'm very, very, very picky. Very picky.
If I begged you to, you would?
I probably would.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I appreciate you coming on. How can people find you online? What's the website?
VicBack.com. The shop is follow27.com. Same things on Facebook, basically. Yeah. And Instagram, Vic Back, and 535 South, 700 East in Salt Lake.
And I'll put all the links on the show notes.
Cool. Yeah.
You have a piece of advice or a motto you want to end the show with?
Love one another.
What an awesome conversation. Thank you so much, Vic, for coming on the podcast and sharing your story. Hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to that. Again, you can stop by and check out 27. They're located at 535 South, 700 East in Salt Lake City, Utah, right across the street from Trolley Square. Head on in there. Let Vic know you heard him on the podcast. Let him know what you thought, and check out his art. I mean, the guy's an amazing artist, and you really need to check that out. I'm going to put all the links at iamsaltlake.com/100 for the show notes. That way you can get in touch with the shop. You can get in touch with Vic and check out his art. Really quickly, let me run down the ways that you can get in touch with me. iamsaltlake.com is the website. iamsaltlake@gmail.com is going to be the email address to get in touch with me. The voicemail line is 385-202-5926 for you to give me a call if you want to be a guest on the show, or if you have any feedback or comments on this episode or any other previous episodes. Really quickly, I want to give a shout out to Kirk Sample for his recent donation. Thank you so much. Helps keep the podcast alive, helps keep it moving forward, and your donation was much appreciated and does not go unnoticed. So thanks a lot, Kirk, for that. I'm here on Monday and Thursdays with a brand new episode, so you're going to want to make sure to subscribe in iTunes. That way you guys do not miss a single episode of the show. So with that being said, my name is Chris Hollifield. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll talk to you guys again very soon.